Does it seem like you've been having a hard time in your relationships lately?
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I have been having some issues in my relationships lately.
But you can't really find out or put your finger on exactly why or what's going on?
You know what? I really don't get what the big deal is.
And deep down inside and even in your mind, you know something needs to be done to fix this, but you don't know exactly what to do.
Hold on, you must be reading my mind right now. Something's gotta happen. Something's gotta change. I gotta fix this some kind of way.
Hey, come here for a minute, man. Let me tell you. I got the answer for you right here.
Sure, what is it?
You need to work on your relationship skills. Stay tuned today on this channel and this video as we talk about some couple skills and some relationship skills that can strengthen your relationships and your marriage. What is going on, YouTube, and welcome back to Faith Like That, a Christian ministry that is dedicated to helping you live a clean life for Christ and to live that life abundantly. We want you not only to have faith, but have applied faith working in your life. We are so excited you're here with us today on this video. Please, if you have not done so already, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you know when our videos come out. Also hit that like button on this video so we can know more about the stuff you do like and don't like, and you can connect with us in those ways. We're also on Instagram. We would love to see you in both places. Go ahead, go on over to Instagram and do a follow there so you can receive some of that content that we put out almost daily. So you're here at this video and you might be having some issues in your relationships.
Definitely. I need some help.
If that's you, that's great. I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to talk about some things to help you strengthen your relationships and to make them better. Even if you're not having those issues in your relationship, you're still in a good place today. It's always good to have this knowledge and understanding before issues happen. So when you do start to have those issues, you have a way of working through them and resolving that conflict without it being a bigger blow up or a big deal. So I'm glad you're here. Whatever the reason, please stay tuned to the end of the video. I'm going to talk about some things in the video that are barrier to communication, but then also give you towards the end of the video a strategy to help you deal with the way you communicate with the other people in your relationship or your spouse. Especially during the current predicament that we're in. I'm recording this video at a time where we're experiencing sort of a worldwide pandemic and we're spending more time at home, trying to stay at home and social distance to limit the spread of COVID-19. But with that, we're in a situation where we're spending more time with our significant other, with our spouse, with our children. And this increased time together is, I guess sometimes for some people, it's been a little bit difficult and there has been issues. And you might not exactly understand what the issue is or why there's even a problem, but communication is key in that. But a lot of times we have not been communicating that much with each other. We're at work a lot, we're at school a lot. We spend a lot more time other places than we have had together. But now in the situation, we're at home a lot more. So I thought this was a very important video to record to help some people through some challenges that they were having. In relationships, we could minimize and decrease a lot of the problems that we have in our relationships when people have the opportunity to hear and to be heard. A lot of times people just don't feel heard or validated in what they're thinking and feeling, and we don't take time always to hear and to validate people. That we want to get our point across and also be heard and validated in what we think and feel. So it creates these problems in our relationships. So if we can fix that one thing, that takes away a lot of the issues that we have in our relationship when we can make sure that we're heard by the significant other and we're validated in our feelings and they're accounted for in our behavior. One thing you have to remember in relationships is that everybody is not the same. And while it sounded like some great advice, one of the worst pieces of advice that we have been given as people is to treat people the way that you want to be treated. Think about this. If we're all different, maybe the way you like to be treated is not the way I like to be treated, and it might even be something that offends me. So to treat me how you want to be treated does not mean you've treated me in a way that accounts for who I am, how I'm different from you, the personality type that I have, and just how I appreciate and what has me as my best as treatment, I guess, as a person. So we shouldn't always treat people the way we want to be treated, especially in relationships. We should take time to learn this person, to understand this person, to hear this person out, and then treat them accordingly based upon what we know about them and what they would appreciate, and how we can validate them, how we can listen to them, and how we can have them at their best. Doing those things, we should then expect the same thing from them, for them to treat us how we would like to be treated, and then also for them to treat us in a way that has us at our best every day too. It's understandable if you treat people that you really don't know, that you don't come into contact with often, that you treat them the best way that you can, and sometimes the only way that you know to treat them is how you know or want to be treated. So that's different for strangers. And again, today we're not talking about strangers, we're talking about people that you're in relationships with, whether they're working relationships, church relationships, or family relationships. We need to make sure that if I'm going to be in a relationship with you, I'm taking time to know you and to learn you. Today we're talking about family and working, or just relationships with other actual physical human being people. But at the same time, I've said many times on this channel, we should be in a relationship with God and Jesus Christ. In that relationship, we should also take time to know Him and to learn Him, so then we can then have this great relationship with Him and treat Him in a way in our relationship that He wants to be treated, which will then result in this presence of God that we get to be in, and a favor of God, and just His covering of you, and just this joy and peace in your life because you're living a faithful life in connection with God. But I don't want to get too much into that, because again, today we're talking about people. All right, so today, again, we're talking about first, some of the barriers to communication in our relationships. Because if we can have great communication, again, it will minimize and sort of eliminate a lot of the issues we have in our day-to-day lives in our relationships. So to start off, there are certain barriers that I want to talk about. There's a few I want to share with you, and I'm going to go into a little bit of detail to make sure you understand what I'm talking about. The first barrier to communication is mind reading. When I say mind reading, what I mean is you're taking time in your conversations and your discourse with people to try to read into what they said and what they really meant, versus or listening for the meaning, or asking them, hey, what do you really mean by this, to clarify. Because if I take time to say, you told me that you don't like strawberry ice cream, but it's strawberry ice cream that I made, so what you're really saying is that you don't like me. Well, that's not exactly what they said. They said they don't like strawberry ice cream. And if you just kind of clarify, hey, you know what, I want to clarify for a second what you're trying to say, because I did make the ice cream. Is it something against me, or did you just not like the ice cream? And this, I guess, it's sort of a small, more silly example, but people do this often, that they sort of read into what people are actually saying versus listening to what they say or asking for clarification. Another barrier to communication is rehearsing. And a lot of people do this, and I've been guilty of doing it at times in my relationships, where instead of listening to what the person is saying, that I'm taking time to think of my rebuttal or what I'm about to say in my mind and go through that, so then I can fight back accordingly to what's being said. I don't know what was really said, but I'm preparing myself to fight back either way, and I'm rehearsing that in my head. So if they're fighting with me and they said something and I end up responding with the response that has nothing to do with everything, but I'm just ready to fight back, and I'm already working it through in my head, then I'm not listening. And I really haven't heard what they said, or even I can't even really adequately address their feelings or validate them, because I didn't listen, and I just want to fight with them, which in turn, in a person's perception, is going to devalidate their feelings and what they think. Another barrier to communication is filtering. where we filter out certain things that people say because we don't want to hear them. Maybe we're annoyed by them. Maybe we feel some type of way, or we're in our feelings about a certain topic or concept or idea or action of theirs. So whenever it comes up, I stop listening for that. And I just sort of tune out to whatever's being said. Or then I even listen for the kind of things that I like, but the things that I don't like, I don't listen for. And that in itself is just filtering. I always hear when we're talking about doing the things that I like, going to places that I want to go, watching the movies that I want to watch. But as soon as you start talking about that girly stuff, yeah, I kind of filter all that out. And I'm here and I may be sort of looking at you, but I'm not really listening. The next barrier to communication is judging. When I say judging, it is how it sounds. In my conversations, I'm listening to you, but then I've heard something that I feel is negative in a certain way, or that you shouldn't have done, or that makes you look like a bad person to me. And instead of listening to you, I already am closed off and shut down to what you're saying or what we're discussing, or even you as a person, because I've started to judge you in my mind. I've judged you. This is who you are. This is what you're doing. I don't need to hear anything else. I'm not even listening anymore. The next barrier to communication I want to talk about is daydreaming. This is another one that I have been guilty of in my relationships at work, at church, at home, just starting to talk about things. And when I start talking about them, maybe I can stay focused when I'm sharing, but then they may say something, and something about a word they shared just made me kind of go off into my thoughts and remember a time where, hey, I remember this time it was like this, or wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And then I catch myself in this daydream and in this thought process, and I have to come back, and I always come back and say, hey, you know what? I'm sorry. I did not hear anything you just said. I was lost in my thoughts. Can we go back over and talk about this? It does upset some people, but they do appreciate the fact that I'll tell them that, hey, I didn't hear it. I wasn't listening. I was thinking about this. Can you tell me again? And then listen the second time. So daydreaming is something that people do, but we can work around fairly easily. The next barrier to communication is advising. Now, I've been married for some time, and we're in the double-digit years now. But at times in my marriage, my wife was upset with me, even though I would listen to her and I would try to validate her and get involved in our conversation. It felt like to her that I was telling her what to do, or I was trying to tell her this is what you should do. But sometimes people just want you to listen and have permission to be upset, have permission to gripe, have permission to just feel the way they feel for a moment. Not that they needed you to fix it, but they just wanted you to hear it. And I was guilty of that many times in my relationship with my wife, that she wanted me to hear it and not fix it. But me as a person, I'm a person that does not just hear things, I like to fix things. So it was a growth process for us, for me and my wife, especially for me, to not always try to fix everything, but just listen. Another barrier to communication is people trying to be right all the time. Sometimes you are not going to be right. And even if you felt like it was right for you, that your perception of the thing and the actions that followed your perception somehow may have hurt someone in another way, or may be wrong when we looked at it in a different way. So that doesn't mean that you weren't right when you first looked at it. It might just mean that you didn't consider all the angles, and there may be some piece of it where that may not have been the right choice, the right thought, the right decision, the right action. And the last one I want to talk about as far as barriers to communication is placating. That when people start sharing with us, and instead of listening to them and hearing them out, we say, fine, I'm sorry, I was wrong, whatever you want, whatever you say, whatever you want to do. And that's called placating. And people, when they're placated and they know it, it upsets people tremendously to feel placated, because they know you really don't agree, or you really don't like what they said, but that you're disagreeing with it, so they'll shut up. All right, now, in talking about this, I did share with you that towards the end of the video, I was going to share with you a strategy to help improve your communication and work around all the barriers that I've shared with you. The strategy I want to share with you was started or formed way back in like the 1950s. It kind of leaves my mind right now, the name of the person. I'll put it down here somewhere on the video if I can think of it, so I can give them credit for their ideas. But the strategy is called the speaker-listener technique. And in that, we take time to hear and we take time to be heard, and then we move forward with our planning of how we're going to address the situation and try to have a win-win situation with our strategies and with our solution. Carl Rogers is the person that made up this technique, or at its first inception. Now, I believe people have encountered it again and kind of tweaked it and made it better and added certain things to its current state here in the year 2020. But Carl Rogers is that person, and in this technique, what you do is that you take time only listening, and then you take time only speaking, and then we move forward with that. So kind of what that looks like is I'll be the person that shares first, and I'll say, hey, I want to share with you, and I want to hear what you have to say. So I'll say everything that I'm feeling about a topic, and the other person just listens, and they only listen. And to try to prevent from saying too much, you should stop periodically, and then you ask the person did you get what I was sharing? Or maybe they'll stop you periodically to say, okay, it sounds like you're going on to something else. Let me stop you there. And then that person that's listening, they will paraphrase what you have told them. And the paraphrasing is key, because it tells the person who is speaking that the person not only heard what I said, but they understood it. So the paraphrase shouldn't be that you repeat back exactly what the person told you, but that you paraphrase, okay, now, from my understanding, you're saying that this happened. And when this happened, you felt this way. And because you felt this way, that you then wanted to do this, or it made you ultimately think about this, which you don't like it. And if that's what they paraphrase, they'll say, yeah, that's what I said. And then if you have more to share, you go on and you share that, and they paraphrase again, and you share that, and they paraphrase again until you're done sharing. And then they don't respond to what you said, but then they'll come back and they will share, okay, this is what I thought, this is the way I felt in the situation, and you will paraphrase for them. Once everyone gets a chance to say what they have to say, and the other person hear what needs to be heard, then we say, okay, now in response to what you were saying, this is what I kind of think and feel now. And then again, we do some paraphrasing, and then till we work through all that's said and the feelings that may need to come from that, and then we'll say, okay, based upon our discussion, we'll come together and we'll say, this is what we need to do to move forward. And in that, it may involve some compromise. And especially in marriage, that's one of the biggest things that you can work towards and grow in and be skilled in is compromise. And it's very much needed to make sure that we have people at their best. Because it might not be something that I like or even want to do, but I'll compromise for my wife because that's what she wants to do. And that activity and me being involved in it will have her at her best. So I know this process sounds like it can be long, and it can be long, but this process can help you in your relationships, especially in your marriage, have talks and discussions that don't turn into heated arguments, because everyone gets a chance to say what needs to be said without having to fight with someone. Because it's very important that when they're speaking, you just listen and you only paraphrase. You don't add in what you think or what you think about that, or it makes me feel that, or I don't like what you said. You only paraphrase. So there's no reason to fight with anybody. There's no arguing to be done. Somebody's only listening to you and then paraphrasing what you said. So I got that and understand. So now let me share, and it kind of takes the gas out of the fire that creates these arguments and these fights when everyone's getting the chance to hear and be heard. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take some time after you watch this video to kind of just write down the obstacles that you have when you think about communication. So I shared quite a few. Go back and look at those if you need to. And I'll put a scroll of them on the screen here, so to kind of spark your memory, and just write down the obstacles or the barriers to communication that are jams for you, that are highlights or frequent flyers for you. And just kind of be mindful as you go through the next few days, how many times these things happen, how many times you daydreamed, how many times you placated somebody, or how many times that you rehearsed in your head your response before you listened. And just kind of take note of when you're doing these things, so you can start to try to train yourself to come out of these barriers to communication that you're taking part in or you're using often. So on top of that, as you get ready to have this conversation or to use this strategy with your spouse, don't use it for heavy issue between the two of you, or whatever relationship you're using it for. Don't use it for a big issue. Do it with something smaller first, so you all can build up a skill of not only listening, but then also paraphrasing. So then when it does count, and it's something that is a little bit bigger and can have the opportunity to get a little bit more heated, that you have this skill that you've worked towards and you've built that can help the two of you. Now, if you do have questions about that or concerns, or do want to speak with somebody about it further, you can always find us on Instagram or here on YouTube and drop a comment, and I would be more than happy to provide you more information or help in any kind of way I can to build this skill up of just some basic listening and then also responding and making people feel heard and validated. Thank you for coming and spending this time with me today as we talked about communication and communication in relationships and how to improve that communication so everyone feels heard and has a chance to hear everyone. I very much enjoy doing these videos, and I would very much enjoy if you would connect with us. If you have not done so already, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you can be notified when the videos come out. Smash that like button if you did enjoy this video so I can do more of the good stuff that you enjoy. And again, if you do want to connect with us and hear from us, we do read the comments, engage with us there. You can engage with us or DM us on Instagram and we'll get back to you there. We take prayer requests in both places and we would love to see you in both places. I wish you the best in your practice of these strategies to improve your relationships. And one thing that would make me extremely happy and I would enjoy is if you would share our videos with other people, especially the people you know need to hear some of these things so we can also help them and help to build them up. And together we can build up the kingdom. Again, thank you for coming and spending this time with me today, and we'll see you next time.